Mhm. Mm. Hey, good evening, everyone. I know everyone is coming in slowly but surely. We'll go ahead and hop in. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat, one being the agenda. And as we go through tonight's meeting, I'll be dropping in a few links here and there as resources for you all to have. Let me do that. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go ahead and get started. It's now 6:06. And so I do want to make sure we have enough time for everyone to be able to ask any questions and engaging into our community dialogue as normal, which is why we are, which is the bulk of why we are here. So I did put the agenda in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so you're also able to follow. And just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. If you are if you can type in, that's perfectly fine. If you want to come off your mic and introduce yourselves, that's perfectly fine. And we're going to go ahead and start. I am Eshé Collins, honored to serve as your District 6 representative on the school board, and I am joined by a couple of our APS colleagues. I'm going to kick popcorn over to Keith, and then Keith, I have for you to popcorn over to Carolyn.
All right, thank you, Board Member Collins. Good evening, everyone. Keith Glass, Board Staff Server as Community Affairs Manager for the board. I'm happy to be here tonight and engage with our constituents. And so I turn it over to Carolyn from our Office of Strategy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Barnett, Executive Director for Strategy and Governance out of the Strategy and Engagement Division. And I am happy to be here tonight just to hear the conversation and try to respond to anything as possible.
Thanks for joining us, Caroline. I also see a couple of our other APS people with us. I know Dr. CT is with us this evening. Dr. CT, I don't know if you wanted to say a couple of things, just introduce yourself. And if not, that's okay.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Kyra Caldwell-Templeton, known as Dr. CT, Program Director of Student Engagement and Co-Advisor of the Student Advisory Council alongside Keith.
Thanks for joining us. And do we have any other APS employees with us and staff, APS staff with us? I don't see anyone. And while we do have you all, if you want to either put in a chat what cluster, represent your cluster, school, or neighborhood, or if you want to also come off the mic and introduce yourself and tell us what cluster you're representing or school or neighborhood, that'd be great as well. And I'll shout it out. Okay. Hey, Dion, good to have you with us. Midtown, shouting out Morningside, Howard, and Howard Middle School and Midtown High. Thanks for joining us. What else? I see Jonathan. Go ahead.
Y'all jump off and say, hey, everyone. Jonathan Leon, Princess Lake resident, Thorough parent. So excited to be a part of the conversation here today.
Okay. Yay. Thanks for joining us. Anyone else represent your cluster, school, or neighborhood? Yeah, anyone else? Okay, feel free to type in the chat as you want. We will go ahead and do a deep dive. I am going to put even though I share the agenda in the chat, I'm going to share my screen as well. Just be prepared for me to come off a share screen as sometimes and put some things up. I want to start just providing some recent events and updates for you all. And the first one that I do want to start with, as you all know, we are in the middle of we extended the superintendent search. Let me put that up. Let's see. Making sure you guys see my screen. Okay. All right. So the first thing I just wanted to provide an update on, if you've been following us, is the fact that we have extended the superintendent search. I know there was a lot of conversation around the community panel that we were getting ready to launch in that space, and so we are meeting back with our search firm Hazard Young and Atia to discuss next steps in moving the search forward. In the meantime, Dr. Battle has agreed to stay on with us to the end of this calendar year as we do a deeper dive into that search. So wanted to just put it on your radar, as you are following that really closely, that there will be more information to come very soon. Also, when we get to the community portion of this agenda, feel free to ask any questions, and I'll share as much information as I can about the search, and as many details as I have readily available. The second thing I really want to share with you all is we're in the middle of testing season. I know we get a lot of questions in terms of understanding the test and assessment, which ones are that the district used to monitor our students. And as you know, we talk about it at every monthly board meeting as part of our goals and guardrails and our soft G conversation that's on the agenda. But I really wanted to share with you guys, and I'll put this link in the chat as well, a really cool resource that that APS has developed to also understand the scope of the assessments, which ones are mandated by state law, what does truly opt out means and what it does not mean, because we get a lot of questions about that, and a lot of parents are not really clear on what that means. And so I wanted to share that link not only in this chat, but I'll share my screen as well so you can actually see what that resource guide is. You can download it or download the link to share out, but I really wanted to share this information with you all because it is extremely really good information to understand the magnitude, to understand the magnitude of tests and assessments, and something that has really been discussed over the years. And so this guide should in fact be able to explain it. But what I will say, it is a lot of information. So if you have any parents, I implore you, if you have any parents that are also asking these questions and really could benefit this information that's close to you, please share this resource out. But I wanted to share my screen so that you can see the depth and magnitude of what is being shared. This infographic is about 31 slides, but it's extremely comprehensive in understanding the assessments at every grade level. Again, what state law requires, which assessments are our monitoring tools to really help us monitor the progress of our students. And so I want to make sure you all have that. It breaks it down to elementary, middle, high school assessments, and even the acronyms. In education, acronyms are everywhere. So it really is a good guide that I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of. And please feel free to share it with your networks or even your close community of parents or in any grandparents, any individual that have children in APS that really could you could really benefit in understanding the magnitude of the testing and assessment culture that is just that is part of the education space in the state. So you have that link there. I also wanted to on the agenda is discuss the as you know, we are in the middle of our FY25 budget season. The Budget Commission will meet tomorrow on our committee day at noon to discuss the budget even deeper. What I did do from our last presentation that we had at the board, I pulled out a pertinent slide, and I'm going to put this in the chat for you, but I'm also going to share on my screen to give, and it's a really good slide of the overview of what you can anticipate the allocations or the requests for next year as compared to this year. So I just put that slide in the chat for you to have. I pulled out the most pertinent one versus going through all of the slides from the budget presentation that was given to the board, and wanting to see, Keith, are you guys able to see my screen? Okay, and is it large enough?
Yes,
okay, great.
Yep.
I pulled slide 15 out of the presentation in terms of for you all just have as a one sheet, a quick one pager to really understand the expenditure walkthrough of the budget compared for FY24 and what is being planned for FY25. This is a more simplified version of the deep discussions that are happening, but definitely wanted you to have this information. So you have that one page that's in the chat and just taking note of some of the differences that we are budgeting for next year and some of those the notes that accompany those. So in terms of the expenditures for our charter school, we're increasing that cost by 13 million for FY25, and this is the proposed budget. So let me put that there. This is what's being proposed. The board won't make a final decision on the budget until June to June of this year. So for the allocation for traditional schools, an increase of 13 million. That includes the 3% salary increase, your COLA benefit rate increases, the counselor equivalent to the ESSER step down. As you know, CARES funding in September 30th of this year. And so we are taking a step down approach in those funds that we did some of those positions and opportunities that we funded with CARES funding and how we are continuing to invest in those pieces, but there is a step down model in place that every year we'll be stepping down or closing out certain things in terms of in terms of things that was funded with CARES that we more than likely can no longer sustain, but also has meet the objectives and outcomes for why we made that investment using CARES funding. So wanted to put that to your bring that to your attention. There will be an increase in our charter school allotment, and if you follow state law, that calculation is that funding amount we're mandated based on the calculation in the state law in terms of what local school districts have to allocate to charter schools, and so there is an increase as well. Wanted to share that with you. Our partner schools, there's a $6 million increase in our partner school piece. So that is our partnerships with Purpose Built, and Kendesi. There is a reduction in our central office cost. Nutrition, as you know, as you see that 571% increase, that is based on APS next year. We will be bringing nutrition fully in-house. I shared this at our last update in February, but this page reflects the actual budget supplement to that. If we were approximately spending about $16 million in our outside vendor to run our nutrition department, but bringing that in, we are absorbing that cost, and so that's where you see that huge increase in that line item there. And then Ms. Burnett, that's with us tonight, will share more about our Readers Are Leaders initiatives. And if you follow the board passing our literacy policy last fall, one of the key pieces of that was this initiative to train and support our teachers in the science of reading and professional development and some of those pieces as well. So Readers Are Leaders is part of that investment work there. You'll see that is for school positions and stipends, but I'll save that work for Carolyn to share a little bit more on. And then some of the other pieces here that you will see here may not are things that are part of the normal ebbs and flows of school, a budget for school. So like summer school, safety, transportations. Definitely want to bring you to compensation. So compensation will be increasing. We're making a huge investment in compensation of about 35 million for FY25, which you'll see that percentage change there. And that is also to help not only right size our staff salaries and making us a competitive district in the metro area. It also encompasses like a $4 million LAP salary. And so that $4 million LAP salary is based on where individuals in the district were on different salary scales. And this has been a multi-year effort in terms of closing that gap. So I also want to bring that to your attention. we'll have a reduction in state grants, as you'll see, and also our district, district-wide funding. And that was the two one-time $1,000 stipends that we gave this year. You'll also see that though we budgeted for some stipends for next year, but not to the magnitude of the $26 million that we invested in FY24. And so with that being said, and I'll also we'll talk more about what our revenue walkthrough will be on tomorrow as well. The gap that you're seeing that we're trying to close is that $16.94 million gap. And there's conversations in terms of pulling funds from our reserves, or also known as our fund balance. And also there will be some reductions that are happening throughout the district, whether they are positions and or initiatives. So I want to leave that there. And Keith, I just switched back to the agenda. Are you guys able to see that, or it's still on the budget page?
You're back on the agenda.
Great, perfect. So any questions? Well, we can dive into this deeper when we get a little bit deeper into the agenda. Again, want to give you a heads up that tomorrow is committee meeting day. There's a lot of work that is happening in the committees that are meeting tomorrow. You have board development that is meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, discussing more about the board's training and learning schedule and plan regarding our student outcome focused governance work. Budget Commission meets at noon, and I share some of the key pieces, starting point with our expenditures, conversations around closing our $17 million gap for next year, and some of the other key pieces that Dr. Lisa Bracken and her team will bring forth tomorrow. I chair the Policy Review Committee. We are meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. And if you followed our board meeting last week, one policy that we are revising is the community Community Advisory Council. And so we do have an advisory council that is situated in terms of our work in equity, and is housed in our Center for Equity and Social Justice. We're revising that policy to align more when appointments happen for board members, which is every 2 years, and also if there needs to be a change in the appointments, what that process look like. So that's more of your administrative logistical revisions that are happening there. The second policy that we'll be talking about and we'll be bringing forth for first reading is also revising our dress code to include a Crown Act provision. And what the Crown Act provision will include is also recognizing our students that come to school with different hair types, different hair textures, whether they're locks, bantu knots, color, whatever that is, and not being subjected to discrimination, or being subjected to any kind of punitive measure because of the way students choose to wear their hair to school. And we've talked about this we've talked about this piece for a while, but you will see that that addition into our dress code that the policy committee will talk about tomorrow, talk more about tomorrow, to make sure that we flush it out and it's clean. We'll bring it to first read for the board. For the goal is to bring it to the board for first read in May, and a 30-day comment period will open up for the community, and the goal is to have final approval in June. So be on the lookout for that conversation that will take place tomorrow, in addition to some new business that has come across for us to think about as a policy review committee. The next thing I wanted to put on your radar is that also Go Teams elections are underway. From the 16th to the 25th, I put the link there as well. You can now elect your Go Team members. And Carolyn, I'll stop right there to see if you wanted to add a little bit more to that. I know that's your wheelhouse.
Thank you so much. Prince, I was about to call you Principal Eshé Collins. You must be coming in-house to be one of our principals. Board member Eshé Collins. Yes, we are currently running our elections for Go Team members. So our staff members will be voting for the staff members at their school, and our parent members will be voting for their parent members. And the parents is by household. So every household gets one vote. That is the way we set it up from the beginning. So we are encouraging our community to get out and vote. We would love to see increases over last year. We are asking that we're hoping that we see an 80% percentage increase from, or 80% participation rate of our staff members, and at least a 30% participation rate from our parents. So if you know of any staff members or any parents, and that also includes our partner schools. So if you are also in the Carver cluster with our partner schools, or in the Douglas cluster with Woodson Park, they are also running an election. So we're just encouraging people to get out and vote. We are on top of the elections, the other elections that will come through. So we're first. So go ahead and rock the vote. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And then the next thing I also want to, I put a link here as well for also for you to share with your, share with your networks. We, the Office of Adult Learning, we have also, we're also offering free GED and ESL classes. So that's English as a second language classes. And my apologies for not putting that second piece there. The sign up, I put the link there where you can go to that link to learn more information. Please push that out to, there's 3 locations where those classes are being held, but also if you know anyone that can really benefit, or they know someone, please share that information out as well. But I definitely want to uplift the free GED classes and ESL classes that APS is now offering. So I want to put that there. The next thing, we are getting ready to enter commencement season. Literally 4 weeks from today, we will be celebrating our class of 2024 graduates. And that's just a commencement week. But as you know, those events and celebrations will be starting sooner rather than later. So whether it's the Val, Sal, and Star Student event, or, we're in the middle of junior and senior prom activities, Val, Sal, Star Student celebrations will be here before you know it. And then also just a host of celebratory events that's happening at your respective high schools. Wanted to make sure you also have the link there to our graduation schedule, just to be where it will be hosted again this year at Georgia Tech. At Georgia Tech, and our special recognitions event that we recognize all of our students and a great accomplishment throughout the district will be held this year at Georgia State University multi-purpose facility. And if I'm right, that is the new facility that is at the corner up by Turner Field in
The new Georgia State football arena.
Yes, yep. So the multi-purpose facility is that new beautiful building at the corner. I think it's like at I-20 and Hank Aaron Drive, where
That's correct.
Where there's parking right across the way. And so really excited to host it at an event where everyone can really, everyone and whoever wants to enjoy that time can now join us. And so you'll see that in the announcement as well. I'm going to stop right there. And I did put here for family engagement announcements. I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to see if you had any additional announcements to add.
Thank you, Board Member Eshé Collins. If you don't mind, I would like to take just a minute of personal privilege to talk about your students over at Thurl.
Yes, please.
Okay,
please.
Thank you so much.
Sparkling.
Yes, so today I had the honor of being invited to the IB experience over at Thurl as the 10th graders presented their problems of practice. These were they're the students that will now go into the full IB program. And when I tell you all that y'all should be proud of every 10th grader that presented today, it was such an honor to be in the presence of the greatness that is at Thurl. Students presented from their personal feelings around gaming and how gaming is not just a social thing, but gaming can also be opportunities to de-stress. Students presented on wellness. We had students present on cosmetology and the art of skincare. We had students who presented on their artistry. I was just so impressed with all of our students at Thurl. There was probably over 50 students that presented today, and it was just such an honor and privilege just to be with them. So kudos to every person that represents Thurl on this call tonight. And so as we move into our family engagement, I just want to call your attention to our Readers Are Leaders initiative. This is something that we're not just asking the district to come aboard, we will be asking for our community to join us in this effort. So we are in the early stages of rolling out the Readers Are Leaders initiative. A lot of our key leaders are being trained, and then our teachers will be trained. But what I really want you all to come out and join us on April the 30th and on May the 2nd, we will be having our Readers Are Leaders community chat. And so April 30th will be at Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy. That is from 6 to 7. And then the May 2nd one will be at Howard Middle School. And both will be in their media center at 6 to 7. Dr. Battle will be sharing information around what the initiative would look like for APS and how as community leaders and parents and staff members, how you can support our students as we push our students to greater heights. So thank you, Board Member Eshé, for allowing me to talk about our Readers Are Leaders initiative.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now also there'll be a series of don't be mind you, there's a series of links that has some of these upcoming engagements listed for you there as well. So feel free to download those. They're both in English and Spanish. Feel free to download those as well. Other than that, let's see, give me 1 second. Other than that, before we open it up for just community discussion and also any announcements that the community has, the only additional announcement that we have is that just want to remind everyone that we've moved off of the Facebook platform onto YouTube, and our channel is APS TV. That's APS as in Atlanta Public Schools.
ABOE.
I'm sorry, ABOE TV, where you can view our view our board meetings live. There is also APS TV channel as well, but it's ABOE TV. So no longer on Facebook, all on YouTube, which has allowed us to expand to a larger audience and make it more easily accessible. So I wanted to put that there. And so now, yeah, we're on perfect time. You guys want to go ahead and open it up for any community comments or announcements or questions. If you can use your raised hand option, that'd be great. All right, I'll turn it. I see Dr. Gale's hand raised. Please go ahead. You're on mute.
Trying not to drive dangerously out here in these Atlanta streets.
Be safe.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, Board Member Collins. You mentioned something as it relates to the budget about becoming more competitive salary-wise. I wonder if you could talk about where you see APS in that regard now as a result of the most recent budget proposal. Are we closer to what you would see as a goal in that regard?
Yep. Yeah, great question. So we every year we have this conversation in terms of the salary increases to make us competitive. And what we often see once we do that investment, most districts also make huge, make investments in increasing salaries. So currently right now, from what was shared with us in the budget meeting, in our budget presentation, we are around number six, is it like six or seventh in terms of what we are currently in being a competitive district offering competitive salaries. With this investment to increase salaries, and as you can think about the cost of living and everything, the affordability, inflation, everything, it is projected that this investment will take us about number 3 in the metro area. That's based on our investment. What I think is going to happen, and we see this every year, other districts respond as well. So it often shifts. So we'll constantly be in this conversation. We'll constantly be in this conversation and dialogue on ways to continue to make APS, continue to make us a competitive district to be a part of. I think one concern and questions that happens every year, and they're still happening, is also being able to keep at this pace and remain and sustain it. At one point of time, way before I was on the board, when the recession hit years ago, that's when salaries were frozen for a while. And we've over the years, we've done a lot of work to try to at least close that compensation gap. So right now we're about number 6 or 7th in the metro area. With the increase, it'll take us to project to take us to number 3. And that's county and city school systems.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Karen's. If you want to come.
Yeah. Hey, yep. Sorry about that. So I wanted to just mention, I don't know if you were able to see the flyer that I DM'd you there. Wanted to just make a quick announcement that we, and by we, it was just NAP, but we are expanding this. We're hosting a candidates forum next week, actually a week from today at this time, for all APS stakeholders, particularly folks from the Farrell cluster, Washington, Mays, and Douglas in North Atlanta for the new SD 38 district, because parts of each one of those clusters are represented in the new district. And there's, of course, great concern that a lot of folks are going to show up to vote and think that either Horsina Tate or Jason Estevez or whoever was their state senator, they're not going to see them on the ballot because they are no longer there or in those districts as they were. So all 6 candidates in the primary are coming to this forum, and we would love we would love your help sharing the word, first of all. And second of all, we would love anybody's help in helping us craft the questions for those candidates. We'll be talking about it a little bit tomorrow at the Equity and Education event, and then we'll be evolving the questions a little bit more as we go on. But we want to make sure that the interests of all clusters are represented, as far as education and taxes and anything at the state level goes. So, and I believe that this is the only education focused forum that the candidates for that seat are doing in advance of the primary. So I think hopefully Eshé can share the flyer. If not, I can email it around. Oh, awesome.
Yep, I did. So the flyers in the chat will also post. And thank you so much, Karen, for uplifting that. I think oftentimes with us being in this space, we all, we forget, and I know I definitely did. So I appreciate you uplifting the fact that yes, our areas, and particularly our cluster and the clusters on the west side has been completely redistricted in this process. And so I really appreciate you uplifting that. I did put the flyer in the chat, and I'll make sure that we also post it and have it circulating. My question is, if anyone does in fact have questions that they want to submit, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for sharing that with SENS and then also the Midtown cluster. Karen, if there are any questions that we want that the community may want to share for consideration, how do we get those questions to you?
So they can send them to the general NAPS mailbox. Email address is on that flyer. And again, I apologize for that. It's also NAPS centric, because if I'm being totally honest, it was ignorant on my behalf I'm just catching up to speed on all of this. I did not realize the true extent of how redlined this district truly is. It's just, it didn't click with me until this week. And then I was like, oh my goodness, we need to make this much bigger than it is. And it needs to be all inclusive district wide, not just us. And here we are scrambling to make that happen. So I apologize for how not central the event is located, but we have the space saved at Morris Brandon already. If it's inconvenient for anyone to drive there, we will live stream it. But we absolutely 100% will make sure that any questions or topics that anybody wants covered will be covered. It will not be unique to the North Atlanta cluster, I can assure you that.
Great, no problem. And we'll do that. We'll appreciate you live streaming.
Yep.
And then also we'll push it as well. I'll post it as well. And if you don't mind, just putting the email in the chat where those questions
Yep,
can be
sure.
sent as well,
Absolutely.
just so that we can download it in the transcript.
Yeah,
And
great.
thank you.
Right now. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dion, so you have a question or your hand is raised.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. Yep.
Woohoo! Some people get that. I have two questions for you. One is around the budget. The other one is around the superintendent search. Regarding some of the budget increases with literacy, we're seeing big increases, and nutrition, and I forget some of the other ones. But how many of those are like one-time purchase items or one-time investments versus like next year we'll see a decrease in that? So to your point, maybe we can go to fund balance for those, or you could justify them a little bit more. I would love to hear about that. I'm going to add another part onto the compensation question. I know you've received my email, and thank you for acknowledging that you received it. Last year I mentioned when, you know, I expressed concern at the same time when we were talking about staff compensation, and saying that if we made an investment last year, that would put us at the 75th to the 100th percentile, but yet we are still in the, 50th percentile. So the question is right now, I would love to see, because we know many of the surrounding communities are doing exactly what we're doing now. Tomorrow, if I had a question and got an answer, my question would be, to the budget committee or to the budget staff, what do we know today that the other districts are proposing? What does that look like on a line graph? And what does our number look on that same line graph? Because we were having this exact same conversation last year, and we're told this investment would get us at the 75th to 100th percentile, and we're still in the same place. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that question is asked. And I know those numbers are available, so we can actually get a true picture of that. I don't really think any of those have answers, do they?
Well, I think I can dive a little bit with your first one when you were asking what are some of those new line items that are one time and what are those that are going to be continuous. Definitely the nutrition one is continuous, being that we brought it in-house, and I can even anticipate that there may be increases over the years as, next year be our first year moving that in. The readers are leaders piece. There are a couple of, I know, one-time investment pieces there. I can get more details from you on that end, and in terms of what that looks like. I think it was some of the curriculum investment pieces that was shared with us, but I'll get a deeper breakdown. And then that your question about the percentile and what will it look like for us to really do a full right size of compensation. I know one of my colleagues did in fact ask that question based on receiving your inquiry as well. And I know Nicole Lawson, our Chief Human Resource Officer, is looking into that as well. So I think it is a great question to ask tomorrow as well. So those are the two that I'll definitely make sure to get responses to, but I definitely know nutrition is going to be continuous, and I'll get the exact items that are the one time for our literacy initiative.
Great. I appreciate that. I think if we sell to staff that we're going to be the 75th to 100th percentile, then we actually need to be there. And I think some more information is there to make sure that you guys are voting on a budget that puts us there. Yep. Because I know it was there last year. And we love our teachers and staff. Next question, superintendent search. I appreciate you put that at the top of the agenda. Head on. It's on everyone's mind, from staff to students to parents. I have kids at 3 different schools, and the only thing that I've really seen about this, besides you talking about it right now, and I pay attention to board meetings, is what's out there in the news. So, they do mention a news release, and I know there's the APS newsroom. I went there, I didn't see anything. And I went on the APS Board of Education Superintendent Search webpage, and I don't see anything there. So as a parent of 3 kids in the district, I'm getting my information from news outlets. And then there was a meeting on Monday night that a board member had. And what I'm hearing from that board member and what I'm seeing board members quote in these news articles are conflicting. So, it leaves many of us, the rumor mill is going and there's no real substance there. I would love to see a communication, a formal communication sent out to all parents. I don't know if staff got one. I hope they did. But this is a big thing and it impacts all of us. I have been very fond of Dr. Battle and what she's doing. But this is a big shift and a big change. And I think we need to put out a clear communication to staff, if it hasn't, and to parents via Infinite Campus and language of choice, and update the superintendent search webpage on the Board of Education with that information of what you can share, because it does reference a news release, but again, nobody has anything. So everyone's kind of grasping at straws and, piecing what together is in the news with quotes and piecing what together what board members are saying in meetings. They aren't the same thing.
Got it. Let me ask a question. When you say the rumor mill, what rumor mill in what regards? As far as the next steps, or?
All of the above. Like, are we sticking with Haya? Are we? And I know some of this you might not be able to answer, but are we? What is the timeline? Ideal. I know it might not be perfect, but what is the updated timeline?
Right.
Are the candidates still the candidates, or are they not? Because that's conflicting. By board report, from what I've seen and heard from board. Then there's a breach. Like, how does that impact the search? But again, you're like grasping at straws here, right? You're trying to put together a puzzle. Staff and parents are trying to put together, and caretakers are trying to put together a puzzle and kind of figure out what's going on. So all we have is really rumors, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's because there's been no clear communication that I know of that has been sent out.
Yeah, no, yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you uplifting that. I mean, because the reality is a lot of the things that you raise are still question marks next to them, and in full transparency in terms of moving forward, continue to move forward with this, search firm timeline. In full transparency, we have not set a new timeline yet. We're in discussion on what that is currently, and so once we have land on that will be communicated out. So I definitely want to recognize and appreciate you sharing that, but those are the things that are still in question. But to your point, I do think there should be some form of communication, just to at least update the internally and community at large. And so I'll take this definitely back to Board Chair Mitchell and Vice Chair McDonald, and also just the team, my colleagues, in terms of the next step of communication, just to keep the community informed until we do get some final decisions on some things.
And I think people understand that, but it's out there in the news. But if you don't watch the news,
right, exactly, we should be the number one communicator on this. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Correct. And I even if you don't have all the answers, you had some answers last week you could share with news stations. I think that parents and staff deserve a direct communication from you, even regarding the little information that you can share, and that there will be updates and future decisions made. I appreciate you lifting that, and I hope we see some action on that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll share this information immediately, and then share this information immediately, so we can start thinking about what that plan, is getting that up front is at least to your point, an update to all of our stakeholders. So you got that. I'll get on top of that ASAP.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to take up so much time.
Oh, no, you're fine. Any other questions? I know there's one in the chat. Says, how soon will the findings from the special education department audit will be available and presented to the public? I don't have that information immediately off top. What I will do is get with Lisa Brown and not Lisa Brown, Connie Brown in our Office of Internal Compliance and get that exact date to you. Yanetta, if I don't know if it's Mr. or Mrs. Sherelle, if you could put your contact information, you send me a direct message with your contact information, I'll make sure to follow back up with you on that. And I'll get that answer to you tomorrow, being that I'll be at APS for for our committee day. So if you can do that, that'd be great. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, announcements?
Oh, can I add something really quick?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So the athletics, does anybody want to talk about that from APS? Because I logged onto that last night and it's great. And there's 2 more, and I know they would love to see more parents.
Thank you, Dion. I will talk about that. That's out of my office. We have engaged our new athletic director. He wants to ensure that all of APS school community understand what athletics is and how they can support. He actually came to us to do the strategic plan for the Department of Athletics. And so as part of the strategic planning process, we're doing listening sessions. And last night was the first listening session. And I think we have 2 or 3 other listening sessions to come. So I will put that out. I'll send that to Keith also to get the community to come. They're really informative, just to understand, like, athletics, we're just not about people running on the field, but it's all about incorporating our students and our student athletes. And so thank you, Dion, for joining us last night. And we hope to see all of you on other calls, because we really want to understand what does athletics mean to you, and also how we can support our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions, feedback, requests that I can get, or let's see. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Dion, for putting that in there as well. Here, any announcements? Well, I know I shared a lot of information. I'll also put my contact information in the chat for you to have. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or need any additional information, or also just have any suggestions or ideas on ways that we can improve some of, processes or opportunities for our students and our families. And then also our next meeting, so I do these quarterly because there's tons of meetings that are happening. And so our next meeting is on the sequence is July. Normally that's our recess month, but it's also a big back to school month. So be on the lookout for either a July or early August date. I am leaning more to July to get as much information to the community before school starts. And so be on the lookout for that date, and I'll get that flyer out to you all. With that being said, is there any last minute thoughts, questions, or comments? Hearing none, all hearts and minds are clear. Let the church say, no, just kidding. Let the church say that. With that being said, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes in case you needed to capture any of the documents that we've posted that also be shared out, or my contact information as well. So wanting to I wish everybody a good night. Thank you all so much for joining us and look forward to seeing you soon.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.